Welcome to Mostly Minutia. I'm Colleen Lindell. I want to give a quick thank you to all my friends and family who've been listening to the show. And thank you to all of the new listeners as well. I've been getting some really great feedback on the show, and that's been really encouraging to me. Like recently, I was just in Vancouver over this past weekend, actually, for my friend Wujo's wedding. You might remember I did an episode on Wujo not too long ago about her immigration from Korea to Canada. So I went to her wedding, and as I said, some of the people at her wedding were giving me great compliments on the show. And then I've also been receiving some feedback from some of you that you'd like to hear more of me in the episodes. So in an attempt to appease you, I'm going to start doing some episodes that are more traditional, like sit-down conversational interview type episodes. And then I'll also still be doing produced stories, of course. So thanks for the feedback, everyone. I really, really appreciate it. And if you have any other suggestions or topic ideas, or if you know someone who has a story that you think it would be good I interviewed them, you can send me an email at mostlyminutia@gmail.com. And Minutia, it's spelled Minutia. That's Mostly Minutia, Minutia, @gmail.com. And now episode 7, My Bread Lady. This episode is about my bread lady, Rania. Rania owns a bread stand at several different farmers markets in Los Angeles. It's called Delices De France, and it's known for its organic breads and pastries. I met Rania at the Los Feliz market a few years ago. I was looking for organic bread because I don't know how it is for you guys, but for me, eating bread and most wheat products is like putting a knife straight into my gut and turning it. So I was starting a weekly Sunday visit to Rania's stand. And the good news is, Rania's bread and croissants have zero effect on me. The even greater news is that during my time of sharing my digestive details with Rania, she started to share with me her personal story. Rania was raised in Tunisia, a country in North Africa bordered by Algeria and Libya and cushioned by the Mediterranean Sea. Italy is literally just a hop and a skip across the water, and Tunisia is part of the Sahara Desert. Rania got her degree in clinical psychology in Tunisia. She never even thought about moving to the U.S. She never even knew she had a knack for business. So this is Rania's story of coming to the U.S., starting a bread business in the midst of dire circumstances, and how doing this not only made her realize her passion for business, but also taught her how to rise in confidence. Here's Rania. How did that all start happening? Because you went to school in Tunisia and you got your degree. And what school did you go to?
It's called 9 Avril, April 9th, University of Social and Human Studies or something.
But the school itself is called April 9th?
Mm-hmm. It was linked to a historical event, and not ask me what it was because I am not certain. I think I've never been that interested in the school itself.
It's just a very interesting name.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like some restaurant in LA would name it. Yeah, we're April 9th. Oh, have you read the menu at April 9th? It's amazing.
Well, I don't think you will use the word amazing if you ever see the school, but yeah, it's one of the major schools in Tunis, the capital.
Mm-hmm.
But it sure needs a lot of work and improvement and
some TLC.
Oh yes, big time. Yeah.
When you were in school there, do you remember having a desire to go into business then?
No, I had no idea. My only desire then was, how can I get out of here?
Out of the country?
Out of the country, out of my life, out of everything. You know, when we first met, it was probably 2 years ago? Or
I think so.
2 years ago. I was also in the process of rebuilding my life. I was married. I got divorced like about 4 years ago. And I didn't just divorce my husband. I felt like I was divorcing an entire chapter of my life. And finally got a chance to express who I am and what I want to do. I was raised in Tunisia. It's a Muslim country. Well, it's one of the most moderate Muslim countries in the region, but still a conservative country. So really, I've never felt that I fit. Like, I never felt like I belong. I've never had a sense of belonging. I mean, I have strong connections there. My family lives there. I love a lot of things about my country. It's part of my identity was built there. But I just felt it was such a small environment. It was an environment that doesn't allow you to grow. And I came from a family and an environment where it's almost like you had a path that you're going to follow. You go to school, you get a job, you get married, you have a couple kids. And no matter how that marriage look like, you stick with it and you do your thing. You do the social show, like you're fine and happy. And I just found that very limited. It just never spoke to me. You know, I used to look at the map and I'm like, I am right here in this little dot on the map. What's going on in the rest of that, you know?
Yeah, what's everybody else doing?
Exactly. How do they look like? How do they talk? What's their culture? And back then, I didn't have internet. Growing up, didn't have internet. My father was against all type of information, even cable TV. It was, we didn't install cable until like I was probably 20.
Did you just feel like you, when you were thinking about, you know, when you were envisioning that path, that everybody else is on that path, did it make you feel like you were going to shrivel up inside or something, or suffocate you?
I felt trapped. I felt trapped and unhappy. I just wasn't happy. I wanted to experience something different. I wanted to do something where I can fully be who I am and not being afraid of being bullied if I express who I am or having to defend myself. I want to be somewhere where I can make mistakes and be human and not being afraid if I make a mistake, that would haunt me forever.
Can you describe Tunisia?
Well, first of all, most people are bilingual. They speak Arabic and French, and most of the time we mix them up in the same sentence, and we create like new words that are like a mix of French and Arabic.
That sounds kind of beautiful, actually.
Well, it could be confusing to a lot of people. Like for a lot of Arabic nations, they don't really understand what we're saying because we speak fast and we have our own Arabic, our own dialect. But it's such a beautiful country. It's small, it's tiny. It's about 10 million people, that's all. Part of it is on the Mediterranean Sea, which is gorgeous. The other part is on the Sahara Desert, which is also beautiful. The economy there is based a big time on tourism. That's part of why it kept the European influence alive, even after we got our independence from France, about in, I think it was 1956.
So not too long ago, actually.
Not too long ago, no. There's a sense that you feel like the French never fully left. And they left us with an inferiority complex somehow. First of all, part of the treaty to get our independence is that we take French in school. It's mandatory to take French. It's been a transition, so it took some time to have a balance there. And for a lot of people now, it's like there's a sense of pride when they speak French or they teach their kids to speak French, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's not necessarily a good thing because where are you teaching your kid? You're not good enough, your culture is not good enough. The invaders are better. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So it's like the regaining of the identity of the people.
Exactly. I think, in my opinion, Tunisians, they struggle with their sense to find their sense of identity. It's a very old country. I mean, it dates back to over 3,000 years ago, and we've been invaded by so many nations and cultures and religions, and you'll find kind of bits and pieces of all of those religions and those cultures. So there is like this, we're not sure, are we Arabs? Are we African? Are we Berber? What are we exactly, you know?
And I know you told me you speak French and you speak Arabic.
Yes.
And you speak English.
Well, English is the last language I learned. Like when I moved here to the States, the only English I had was, sorry, I don't speak English, which was It was really. It was like very embarrassing. The first couple years I moved here, it was very embarrassing and very frustrating because I couldn't communicate. I couldn't talk. I couldn't express myself. And I'm a talker.
So you learned how to say perfectly, sorry, I don't speak English. And we were all like, but it sounds like you do.
But it sounds like you do. But I did. Like, I remember, okay, I worked at a restaurant as a bus girl. Actually, I was bussing tables when I first arrived here. So somebody asked me for water. A customer asked me for water. And I had no clue what he meant. I didn't know what I didn't know. I know how to read it. The pronunciation, I couldn't get it. So I went to look for the waiter, and the waiter was very busy, and he was like this whole thing. And the waiter finally got to talk to the customer, and he said, "Oh, I just wanted a glass of water." And he held the water, and he was like, "That's what he wanted." It was really embarrassing then. But anyway, I think I'm doing better now in that area.
What worked best for you to learn English?
The news. Because they speak proper English. Like, I remember it was around the 2008 presidential elections, so there were a lot of speeches and stuff, and they tend to repeat the same speech over and over again. And they had pundits, and they had talking points, and they repeat the same programs like over and over again. So kind of what I was doing at home, I will just have the news on it. CNN, MSNBC. I skipped Fox News, but
a little too conservative for you, maybe.
I found it a little offensive sometimes, hostile to immigrants in general. So that's why it was probably part of why I didn't appreciate it.
Yeah. Did you have to make a concerted effort? Like, did you make a decision to learn English?
Oh, yes, big time. First of all, as I said earlier, I'm a talker. I love to talk. So it's essential to me to be able to communicate. Language is not just a way for us to talk and communicate. It's also a window to who we are as people.
Going back to Tunisia, I was wondering, is it really tropical? What's the climate like there? Because what you're describing to me is, two extremes, desert and the sea.
Yes.
And I love how people who live on the sea, they're like, it's not an ocean, it's a sea.
Yes, because they're very different.
How are they different?
Well, first of all, the Mediterranean, it's calmer. It's not as cold as well. So you can, certain places you feel like you're swimming in a pool. It's not really, sea. The ocean is, it has more of an impact on you. It's more like, impressive. So it's different. It's very different. But it's funny. I grew up, we lived probably less than 15 minutes from the beach, even though I had no idea that I lived on a coastal city. The culture did not promote it. But it's just the town itself, the mentality of the people. It was the second major city in the country. But it was still had that small town mentality where everybody knows everybody and everybody gets into your business. And it's okay for somebody to walk to you and ask you what you're doing here and who you're talking to. That's where I lived. You travel probably an hour or so away from where I grew up. It's a different story. There are private beaches, hotels, luxurious hotels. So it's a different story. And also I think my parents did not really promote that lifestyle, like a beach-oriented life. They were really closed off.
Do you feel with yourself that you allow yourself to make mistakes and you're not hard on yourself, but that other people around you back then were?
Oh, back then it was hard on myself too, because that's how I've been wired. It was like, you make mistakes, you pay the price, really heavy, What
was really your first step that you took in exiting from that, or in allowing yourself to start living out the path that you wanted to be on?
I think leaving my marriage was the first real step.
Were you married in your country?
Yeah. Got married and I moved right away.
Here
to the States.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, the plan originally, a long time ago, was to go to Europe because that was the most popular destination in Tunisia. You get your degree and you have a chance to go study in France or Germany or Ukraine, and that's where you go. But then I met my ex-husband, and he always wanted to study in the US. His father got his degree in the US, so that was his plan.
Were you interested in this country?
It never occurred to me that I would ever have a chance to go to the States. Because, okay, I have family that live in France. I have friends that live in Germany. So it was just easier to go there. It was easier because you know people, I have a network, you know, I knew the language. And even though I took English in school, but it's never been my strongest subject, and I always neglected it. And I always had terrible scores in it. Really, it was terrible. Because I never thought I would use it.
Yeah.
I never paid attention.
Yeah. That's how I was with Spanish, by the way.
Oh, really? Okay.
So your ex-husband had an opportunity to come and study, or he applied to study?
Oh, he applied to study. He's an MD, so the plan was for him to take the USMLE exam, so he can become to do his residency here. And the plan was for me to pursue a master's degree.
In psychology?
In psychology. So that was the plan then. But of course it didn't happen. Things happened, and it's not easy when you move to a different country and things don't go as planned, especially we're newly wed, still adjusting to that. So things went wrong. Very wrong. The big dream of, going to the US and I'm going to discover a new word, and it just got crushed. And I felt trapped in a different continent, different country, didn't know the language, didn't know anybody, wasn't happy in my marriage, wasn't happy. I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do. I just felt trapped for a long time in a situation where I had no power to exit for a long time. And I don't know what to do with it. I don't know how to unshackle myself from that situation. It was a very tough situation for a few years. Until finally, I was like 5 years into it. I was like, what is it? What's going to happen? I feel like I'm dead anyway. So let's just take off. If I die doing this, at least I'll die for a good reason, So I just took off, just picked up my suitcases and left. And things have been going great since then. My life changed like 360 degrees. I feel like I'm a totally different person now.
Because when you first came here, where did you end up living? Were you in LA?
Yeah, we're in Valley Village. Like I remember when my ex picked me up at the airport, we took Laurel Canyon to go to our apartment. It was nighttime. It was beautiful. I remember it's like it was yesterday. I was like, this is my city. This is home. I love it. Until I got home, of course, a couple of days later, discovered it wasn't really what it was. The city is still beautiful. It's just the situation wasn't that beautiful. But I loved it from the first sight. I just felt that's what I love about LA. No matter where you come from, you feel like you belong. I remember I had an Israeli neighbor, and I had a Syrian neighbor. And we all been taught to hate each other since we were, growing up. Like, you don't mingle with Israelis. They're the enemy. And I became really close with my Israeli neighbors and the Syrian neighbor. And it was like, here's a place where we can go beyond our differences. We can connect on a human level without the obstacles of politics and governments and inherited hatred. It's like you've been taught to hate somebody. You don't know why you hate them, but you have to hate them. It's your duty to hate them. So that was a great experience for me. That's why, I think in LA, no matter where you come from, you belong. There is a place for you somewhere. You can fit in. So I love it here.
When you packed your bags and left, did you have your business then?
Yeah, we were actually working with a friend. He sells a different product at the market. And then we thought, why not start something of our own? So we started it before we separated, and then we split. When we split, he wanted to take over, but I felt that I put a lot of effort, I did a lot of work to make it happen. So I felt it was rightfully mine. finally made the changes I've always felt needed to make in terms of sales strategy, what markets to approach, relationship with managers, with customers, with suppliers. So I felt like I finally was able to express my personal vision.
Can you describe your business so that people who are listening can understand?
Sure. So what I do, I provide freshly baked bread, pastries. Basically, it's a French bakery with an American influence, of course. So it's daily baked, it's organic, it has no preservatives.
I mean, the croissants that you make it's the best croissant I've ever had in my entire life. It's so good.
Thanks.
So, but who's making those? I mean,
bakers, professional bakers. I hire bakers to make the croissants and breads. And I don't work just with one bakery because I want to create variety. Whether you want a variety of wheat breads or you want a variety of sweet breads, or you can find it in one stop. So that's why I love diversifying who I work with in terms of manufacturing.
I know that you started this with your ex-husband, but how did you decide on starting a bread business?
It was a total coincidence. Really, it was a total coincidence. We knew somebody who did something similar. And he was like, why don't you guys do this? At first, we were very skeptical, and then we tried it a couple times, and it worked. It was a lot of work the first couple years. And especially after I split with my ex-husband, I had to change a line of product, add more products, research more. And I had very little resources. I didn't have a car then. I didn't have money. I had nothing. I was living off a couple suitcases, and I was staying at a friend's.
And you were still going to the markets?
Yes, like I remember I got approved for a market and I didn't have a car yet. And I remember the manager asking me, so you'll be fine starting next week. I was like, totally, absolutely. I'm ready if you want me to start tomorrow. I had no idea. So in less than a week, I had to come up with a way. I paid a friend to drive me to the market. And poor thing, she would get up at like 3 o'clock in the morning. And she will pick me up, take me to the market, come back at the end of the day. I borrowed money to buy tents and equipment, of course, and buy products like to make the stuff. It was fun though. I was gaining confidence with every step until finally I was like, oh, I'm actually doing it. I can manage my own business and I can grow. What excites me the most is like, how do you turn an idea into a product? I find that very exciting. Even when I'm selling something, I'm talking to a customer and I finalize a sale. It's not the sale itself that excites me. It's the fact that I was able to convince that person and I was able to understand what that person needs. I just find the whole thing exciting. The whole interaction, and how you start with a project, it's just this baby idea in your head. And you see it grow, and you don't see it grow, you make it grow, and you make mistakes, and you adapt, and you change, and you modify. The whole process, I find it fascinating.
So does it work like if you get into a market, or then you have a permanent spot there?
So the way it works is either if you approach the manager of the market, or they approach you, depends. If you got approved by them, by the management, then they will send a letter to the health department. You go to the health department, get your permit, health permit, and of course they check, are you using a legit kitchen, or they inspect you to see how you're operating, are you following health guidelines and regulations. If you get approved, you pay rent every week for the spot and you're in. So that's how it works.
That's great. So you've had to apply for each of these?
Each market individually, and you get a health permit for each market individually, which something I love. Again, I remember about a week ago, I was having a conversation with my mom, and she was like, why don't you have, a store? like a permanent store. I was like, I have different stores in different areas. I find it, first of all, it's fun. You're meeting people all over the place, and I met a lot of great people doing this. Second of all, you're reaching different communities versus having one store and you're serving just one restricted community. It's I think it's great. I love it. I love that even if I ever open a store, most likely I will keep this, at least partly. Because it's been a great opportunity. I met a lot of people, as I said, and I learned a lot about the culture here through the markets. It helped me improve my English because I have one-on-one interactions with real people, not just the news. And I'm not just following the radio. And I had a lot of beautiful, interesting conversations with people, and I made friends through markets. I felt it made me feel empowered. I can take care of myself. I can be self-sufficient. I'm capable of building relationships and ties, and it's just a sense of confidence that I've never dreamt to ever have. It's been a great thing. I think it's the best thing that ever happened to me.
What time are you starting your day in the morning, and what time are you going to bed at night?
Well, it's funny you ask that because I'm not a morning person, and this business forced me to become a morning person. Like 10 o'clock at night, I'm dying. That's it. I want to go to bed. I think my busiest day is Wednesday because I have 2 markets. So I'll leave home around, I think, 4:30, pick up the bread, go to the first market in West LA, do a setup there, wait for my staff to show up, leave them in charge, and I go to my other market and I do another setup. And it's an involved setup because it's a busier market for me. Then I leave there, I break everything down, I go back to West LA, pick up the rest of the stuff. So it's physically demanding. And, you get customers, whether it's the beginning of my shift or the end of my shift, and I'm expected to give them the same exact treatment or the same, greet them with the same level of energy and enthusiasm. Whether I'm just starting and feeling fresh and ready, or it's the end of my shift and I'm already tired. And that's pretty demanding. And you meet all kind of people. Some customers, they know what they want. Some customers, they're more hesitant and they need more guidance with what bread will work best for them. And you don't know what's going on in people's lives at that particular moment and that particular day. So I meet somebody, you say the wrong word at the wrong time. Really, it demands a lot of, energy and focus. Some people just do their setup and sit down. I don't do that because I love interacting with people, and also I like to leave a good impression on my customer. And I want them, when they go to that market, they're like, I'm going to my bread person.
Oh, you definitely are giving that off. You are very attentive to each person that comes through there. Like, I can tell you're very adamant about, one-on-one treatment.
Yes. I think it's important. It's something I love to do. It's something I learned to do since I was a child. It's part of my personality for various reasons. When I was a child, as I said earlier, communication and information wasn't something promoted in my family. So I had to rely on observation in a lot of cases. And I was very careful with how to place words and how to... so I was being attentive to my surroundings and attitudes around me. And so I think that's something... Then it didn't feel good, but now I feel like it's something I gained.
You had told me, I think this is maybe not the last time I saw you, but maybe second to last time. I saw you at the market, and you said that you were going to be going home, and you had kind of like a anticipating look in your eye, and you said that you hadn't been home in a while, and so you were kind of wondering, how it was going to go. And how did it go for you when you went home? Because was it some years
It was 8 years. I didn't visit my family for 8 years since I left for the U.S.
And had anybody come here to visit you?
No, I haven't seen my family since I left. That was very emotional. It went great, better than I expected, actually. But it was very emotional, like especially seeing my mom and being able to hold her and kiss her, and I cried like a baby. Oh my God, it was so embarrassing. Everybody was looking at me. It was so embarrassing. Everybody, like strangers were crying with us. I wasn't just crying. I was like, oh, I was like bawling. I was like a little baby, really. I was a little baby for a few minutes there.
Well, you are her baby, so.
Yes, really. And she made me feel it. She made me feel it. She made sure I slept in her bed. Nowhere else. It was in her room and in her bed. Made all kind of food I loved. It was great. It just felt, for a long time, I felt disconnected from my family and from my roots. So it was a great opportunity to do a lot of soul search and a lot of accept a lot of things that I wasn't accepting before, reconcile a lot of things. I visited my father's grave. I haven't seen him. I wasn't been able to say goodbye when he died. I was here. So I visited his grave and I was able to finally say goodbye. It felt nice. It felt really good. It just felt that I have a family again, because for a long time I forgot how that feels.
What are some of the restaurants that you like to go to around LA?
Some of the restaurants I like to go to. Well, I have a very my taste of food is I don't have like just like one kind of cuisine that I love. I love food in general. So there's a Middle Eastern place on Venice. The place itself doesn't look impressive, but the food is fabulous. It's really, really good. A lot of flavor and it's authentic. The owner is Egyptian.
Do they have salted lassi there? Do you drink that?
What is it again?
Well, I don't know what the actual name is for it, but it's the yogurt drink, but it's salted.
Oh, yes.
It's not the sweet one.
I've never had it. I've never tried it before. I think we have something similar in Tunisia. It's called lben. It is a salted yogurt. It's a little thinner than yogurt, and it's salted. And we eat that with couscous.
Oh, like you pour it over it?
No, you drink it. Like you eat couscous and you just drink it. Some people find it odd. It's like you're drinking yogurt with couscous, but it's actually a great combination. It's really good. But it's really heavy. You have to take a nap after that. You do. You need it. Like, speaking of couscous, there's a great Moroccan place. I love the vibe there. It's called Marrakesh. They have a ballet dancer. As you're eating, she performs. But I love because it feels closer to home to me. The decor, and it's authentic Moroccan. And you eat with your hands. They wash your hands, before you eat, and they give you a towel to dry them. It's cute, and they have the best pastilla. Do you know what pastilla is?
No.
It's a sweet and savory kind of a pastry. So it's layers of dough, really thin layers, stuffed with cinnamon and chicken.
Oh my gosh.
It is really, really good. I mean, you have to try it at least once in your life.
I have to go to Marrakesh.
You have to go. Really. And every time I go there, I can hardly breathe after I finish eating because I can't stop myself. I really can't. They give you a lot of food, and it's a dish after dish, and I love that because it's something I grew up with. Every time we have a gathering, it's not just one type of food. It's like a buffet. A lot of food, and you sit around the table for a couple hours and you chat and you eat and you eat and you chat. So that's what you do. Even when you go to the living room after dinner, they bring you more food. So throughout the whole thing, you're eating.
Wait, what do you mean? So you sit down and you eat food, and then you go.
Yes, they bring you like a whole bunch of desserts. And you have to eat. Like, I remember at my wedding, I had 2 weddings. It was, anyway, an awkward thing, a cultural thing. My wedding, like, my parents did a wedding for me, and then the groom's parents had a wedding for him. That's how it works. So we served dinner. Then it was all range of pastries and ice cream and teas and all kind of stuff. Then later on, around I think it was 1 o'clock, 1 a.m., they served the soup with octopus, and it's indigenous to my hometown. I make it really spicy with the tomatoes, and it's really good. So we started with food and we ended with food. That's how it works. You just eat. Food is the star of every event.
Yeah, it's like, well, it's really nice to see you. Are we eating?
Yes. And, you know, growing up, there was this thing. If you go to somebody's place and they don't serve you food, you consider them rude.
Huh.
They have to serve you, like, at least, not just a drink. Like, you have to bring them food. Otherwise, they feel that you disrespected them, you weren't welcoming, even if they show up not expected. Especially if they show up lunchtime or dinner time. You're supposed to do whatever it takes to make dinner or lunch and have them eat.
So your parents would just have extra food in the house?
Yes,
just to
my mom used to. Oh, yes, absolutely. Like, we always had extra, let's say, pastries specifically for guests and extra drinks that are for guests. Like, I remember my grandmother, oh my God, she had this thing. She doesn't just invite you to eat, she begs you to eat. And she gets offended if you do not eat. Like, the minute you show up, she's already nervous. She's looking at her daughters, who's gonna get up first and bring food. And if one of them, God forbid, doesn't do that, she will not hear the end of it. It's a thing. It's like a rule. She was very religious about it. And no matter what time of the day it is, morning time, then it's breakfast, and it's not just breakfast. If, let's say, they're having an event and somebody shows up morning time, so they have breakfast, they have a brunch, like a little brunch afterwards, like around 10 o'clock, and it's a specific type of food. Then there is lunch, then there is dessert, then there is a snack, then there is dinner, and then there's dessert after dinner. So all day, it's all about food. Afterwards, after the guest leaves, you feel exhausted, but that's how it works.
Yeah.
Like, I remember when my friends used to come over, my mom will be knocking on my door, on my room. I woke up, she will give me a lecture, how rude I am. My friends, they've been sitting there for like half an hour, and I didn't get up to make coffee. And she will lecture me, like, you are very rude. I'm like, they're here kind of every day. I'm not going to be really to almost live with us. I can't really be their servant. And they tend to like it here better than I go to their place. Kind of, maybe because every time they come here, they have a personal assistant. Yes. But if I ignore it, she'll get really upset and she will make the coffee herself. Then after a few minutes, she knocks on the door again, really upset this time with a tray of fruits or other kind of food. If it's dinner time, she gets really stressed out. And I remember when my friends used to visit, I'm like, Mom, don't worry about it. Just don't worry about it. We're here to study or we're here to just have fun or whatever. We get pizza or something. But no, she has to find out, each one of them, what they like to eat. And she will make specific food. Like, if somebody doesn't eat beef and she's serving beef, she will make beef and chicken. And she will get mad at me afterwards.
That you didn't tell her
that I didn't, coordinate it well. Or because she's tired because she made 2 dinners. It's the way she's been brought up.
Yeah.
And that's the way that's how she taught us to be. Like, I can remember when I first moved here, when a member of friends of my ex-husband came to say congratulations. It was the first time I met her. I think she found it kind of a little strange that I served pastries. But I remember she liked the pastries so much, she actually asked me for a bag.
She wanted a bag of the pastries?
Because she felt like the pastries were so exotic. They were Tunisian pastries. They looked different. And first of all, she didn't know what to make of this, the whole thing. Me serving drinks on a tray and pastries and asking her what she liked to eat for dinner. I was doing what I know, but
it's so hospitable. we don't do that
Yes,
at all.
she got, the same person she visited multiple times after that. I remember one time she left and she left me a note on the kitchen counter. It was like, can you please make this dish next time I visit?
Oh my God.
That's how I looked. I was like, I need to stop this. And she's very sweet. She's a very sweet person.
A monster.
Yes, I'm like, oh my God, no, they think that's what I do.
Yeah. Oh yeah, right. Because
it became like a thing. We'll go to Rania's and we're eating.
Does. Yeah.
Yes, it's like they show up next time you don't serve food. They look at you funny. I was like, where's the food already?
Right.
Because they expect it now.
That's so funny.
Yeah, I changed my ways now. Yeah, I freed myself from that.
I was wondering, can you say the names of the markets that you're in right now so that people know where to find you?
Absolutely. So I go to Kaiser Permanente in Harbor City. It's on the PCH in Vermont. It's every Wednesday from 9 to 2. I go to the same day, go to Kaiser Permanente in West LA on Venice Boulevard and Cadillac. It's 9 to 2 as well. I go to La Cienega Farmers Market. It's one of the oldest markets in town. It's a great market. It's every Thursday from noon until 7:30. I go Marina Del Rey to the Del Rey Market Fridays. It's a small, cute market. Great community there. It's from noon until 6 o'clock every Friday. I go downtown. It's right in front of the Flowers Market. It's one of my favorite locations because I love flowers. Mm-hmm. Go there early in the morning, see people buying flowers and bread. You feel like you're in Europe or something. So that one is from 9 to 2 Saturdays. And of course, I go to the Los Feliz Market. That's where we met. It's 9 to 2 on Franklin Boulevard and Vermont Street. 9 to 2 as well, Sundays. And pretty soon, we're going to start going to Compton. It's a new market opening in Compton. 9 to 2 Saturdays.
That's great. Thank you, Rania, so much for giving me half of your day on your day off to record and share your story. An update on the Compton Farmers Market. It's currently waiting to be approved by the health department, so starting date is still pending, but keep posted. Also, Rania has now branched out and started a catering business that has a Mediterranean emphasis. If you'd like to reach out to Rania, you can do that by email at delice.france, delice.france@gmail.com. And if you're dying to try one of Rania's croissants, or rosemary bread, or pistachio bread, or chocolate almond croissants, for a complete listing of farmers markets where you can find Delices De France, go to my website, colleenlindell.com. There's also a link to the LA Weekly Farmers Market Guide that just came out this past week. This episode was recorded in Rania's apartment in Mid-City, Los Angeles.